I think the moment is here. Moment that we've been debating over the last 2.5 months, and an issue that I think the American people care deeply about. It's an historic moment. And I thought to myself this morning, how will history judge what it is that we're doing on the floor of the House today? What will they write 50 years from now about the decisions that we're making here today? When I handed Ms. Pelosi, our new Speaker, the gavel back in January, I said that the battle of ideas should be fought on the floor of the House. But as we do it, we should respect each other's opinion. We can disagree without being disagreeable. I have great respect for Mr. Murtha and Mr. Roby, those that have brought this bill to the floor today, along with Mr. Young and Mr. Lewis. And we should respect all of our opinions and each other's opinions when we get into this difficult decision. All of us wish that Iraq had gone better. We all wish that the mistakes hadn't been made, that the terrorists would not have shown up and made this a central front in our war with them. The fact is, we are in Iraq. We are in the midst of a fight with an enemy that's just not in Iraq, that's all over the world. And we're there. And you begin to think about the bill that we have before us to pay for the war in Afghanistan and the war in Iraq. And somehow we have room for $10 billion worth of non-military spending. I don't need to go through all the details for the money for spinach, the money for the Capitol Hill power plant. That's a real emergency. Things that don't belong in this bill. But I think all of us know what the greater issue is here and the bigger issue. And that is that the ideas of our friend from Pennsylvania to put his benchmarks in there, which are very different than the benchmarks that I proposed. The benchmarks I proposed were to measure progress. We're trying to help ensure that we win. The benchmarks I see in this bill are intended to bring about failure, to bring about stumbles. And if you look at all of the handcuffs, all of the hoops and hurdles that are in here, I believe there's only one outcome if we support all the strings and the handcuffs, and that outcome is failure. I don't believe that failure in Iraq is an option. And there's a lot riding on this. Just think for a moment what signal this sends to our enemies. What does it say to them? We're not willing to stand behind our troops, that there's a hard deadline out there, that we're going to withdraw our troops. What signal does it send to them? Our enemies understand what happened in Vietnam. When this Congress voted to cut off funding, we left Vietnam. We left chaos and genocide in the streets of Vietnam because we pulled out and didn't have the will to win. Our enemies know what happened in 1983 after the Marine barracks were bombed in Lebanon, and we pulled out. And what did we see? Chaos and genocide all through Lebanon, and continuing to this day. Then in 1993, we decided to pull out of Somalia. Left chaos and genocide in our wake that continues to this day. And who doesn't believe? Who doesn't believe that if we go down this path, we're going to leave chaos and genocide in Iraq? And we're going to tell our enemies all around the world that you can take on the United States, you can push them to the edge, and at the end of the day, they'll just go home. The spread of radical Islamic terrorism is a threat to our nation and is a threat to the free world. Not just in the Middle East. They're in Asia, they're in Europe, they're in Africa. Cells are growing right here in America. People dedicated to killing Americans, killing our allies, and ending freedom, and wanting to impose some radical Islamic law on the entire world. So I ask you, what are we to do? Just walk away from the fight? What message does this action that we take today, what does it send? What kind of message does it send to our allies? The people who have worked with us over the course of the last 50 years, 100 years, to bring freedom around the world, to end tyranny around the world. What message do we send to them? That we're there as long as it doesn't get too tough? Think about what Franklin Roosevelt must have felt like in the midst of World War II, when things weren't going so well, either in Europe or over in the South Pacific. I'm sure there was a big debate here in Congress the same way, same time. But Franklin Roosevelt knew that the world had no choice but to stop Imperial Japan and to stop Hitler's Germany, because he knew that the consequences of failure in World War II were going to lead to more tyranny and less freedom all around the world. He didn't shrink from that challenge. But more importantly, think about what this message sends to our troops. Our troops are on the ground in Iraq, in Afghanistan, doing their duty to protect freedom and to end tyranny. They're there watching this debate that we're having in the House today and wondering, will Congress do its duty? Will Congress stand up and support the mission that I'm in? Think about those soldiers right this moment who are on a mission somewhere in Baghdad, trying to bring safety and security to those people. While this debate goes on and this vote is about to occur as to whether we're going to support what they're doing. This is an important moment. Our forefathers had this moment many times before. And whether it was George Washington or Abraham Lincoln in the middle of the Civil War, when it wasn't going very well, they had a decision to make. Was failure an option for any of them? No, it wasn't. And I know this is difficult, and I know there are deeply held opinions on both sides of the aisle and amongst both sides of the aisle. But I would ask all of my colleagues, is failure an option? Do we want to give victory a chance? We sent General Petraeus over there. 84-0 was confirmed by the Senate. The plan is underway. And what this bill will do will be to undercut his opportunity at success. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to say to you that we have no choice but to win. Because if we fail in Iraq, you'll see the rise even further and faster of radical Islamic terrorism all around the world. We'll see chaos in Baghdad. We'll see genocide there. We will provide safe haven for our enemies. We will destabilize the moderate Arab countries in the Middle East. And if anybody doesn't believe that this won't end Israel as I know it, you're kidding yourself. And if you don't believe that these terrorists won't come here and fight us on the streets of America instead of the streets of Baghdad, I think you're kidding yourself. So we have our moment of truth. We have our opportunity to do what our forefathers have done, and that's to stand up, support our troops, and to win. Because the outcome of failure is actually too ominous to even think about. And so I ask my colleagues today, let's not vote for spinach. Let's not vote for more money for the power plant and all the other silly things in here. We know what this bill is all about. And it's about whether we've got the courage to give victory a chance or whether we're just going to bring our troops home and give up.
What you're going to do at the end.